Vishal Kshatriya, Senior Derivative and Technical Analyst at Edelweiss, joins us on the show, as does Prakash Diwan, Director at Altamont Capital Management, who joins us on the show too. Thanks so much for joining in, both of you. First, a quick trading perspective from you, Vishal. What have you observed in HUL in the last 15-20 minutes of trade? And is this 4.5% a decent enough cut, or can it do more?
Definitely. Any of the stock which is in the sector of defensive, 4.5 to 5% cut is definitely a big cut. In last 15-20 minutes, what I've been observing is we have seen a very huge spot in volumes, both in cash and as well as in the FNO segment. And my sense is that we have also seen some short build-up happening in this particular stock. As the results was not up to the mark, I guess some of the aggressive traders have taken a short side bet. So this is what at least the data is suggesting right now.
Prakash, what would you recommend here? Hindustan Unilever numbers pretty much in line, aside of course, the top line revenue growth disappointment, which has been marginally lower. But a 4.5% gash, is it valuation concerns? Because almost all the other parameters, it wasn't a bad number.
No, I think this is something like a repeat of what we saw a while back for HUL. Not the previous quarter, I remember, but the last quarter of FY14, and very clearly, this is where there's too much of expectations, especially when people are realizing that they're paying top dollar for such stocks like ITC and HUL. They do expect some numbers which are above the ordinary. My sense is once the froth settles, people will realize that stocks like HUL will fetch that kind of a premium, and then once a quarter, if there's a weak quarter once in a while, it doesn't really mean that you write off the stock so dramatically. So I think it's a good time for people to seek out value. I won't buy it today maybe, but let the momentum downwards continue for a while more, and maybe at lower levels it definitely starts beckoning once more, because FMCG generally is the kind of segment that has been ignored at the cost of all those high beta names, and I think that there's going to be very soon the time for them to come back. So, and that's when all these things starts kind of getting ignored and overlooked very grossly. So I would believe that wait for a while, let the stock move down, but there's nothing wrong with a dip in revenue, especially on such a large balance sheet. You can buy it at lower levels.
Almost 5% down now for Hindustan Unilever. That's 720 and counting. So that is clearly getting clobbered in the session today. What else? There are a few other stocks. For example, M&M Financial Services has added fresh longs in today's session. I think 5 lakh shares added to OI in today's trade after the numbers came out. So while the market has looked slightly skittish, M&M Financial has actually gone from strength to strength. 4% up in the session today, has added quite a bit of OI, and Kotak Bank continues to rise and shine, has added another 8% to OI in today's trade, and amongst the better performers after the robust move that it showed in Wednesday's session. Vishal, these two financial names, what do you do here? Because I was looking at the OI build up 3 days ahead of expiry. It's fairly decent.
Yes, it looks decent. Not only the M&M Finance, we have seen a lot of financing company have seen a good amount of movement today. If you see the Bajaj Finance also, it has also made a fresh life high with good volumes. M&M Finance have seen a long build up with huge OI additions. Though the base for total number of OI for this particular stock is low, with addition of 5 lakh shares is a very decent amount of OI what we can see right now. So yes, the financial companies, especially NBFC and all these companies, have seen a good amount of long build up today, and I sense yes, we have seen a good long build up in lot of these financial companies. So my sense is yes, we can see a lot of positive momentum in short term in all this finance company.
Okay, Prakash, fair amount of activity in BHEL as well on expected order wins, 251 for this stock. What's the view?
I think very easily there seems to be a build up on BHL in terms of the entire news flow from the government side, be it related to power, be it related to defense. There seems to be a revival of sorts of the sentiment for particularly companies like BHL which are into that government oriented space, and I think that momentum should continue. Sorry, and besides, there's not much of a option for people to kind of ride on any of these proxy names that you would have in these sectors. So barring an L&T and a BHL on the side, so there's just really, I think that scarcity premium is also getting attached to BHL now. I would believe people will want to buy into it because it was one of the stocks that hadn't kind of participated completely. But at this point in time, we're not adding any fresh positions. So I would also want to avoid BHL, even if it looks pretty attractive given the relative strength. But at this point in time, we are completely out of buying into the market till the earnings season gets over.
Yes, it's rallied quite a bit though, BHEL from a low of 195 first week of October to the current market price of around 252. It's been a massive rally, almost 25% or slightly more than that. So good going, and adds another 5% in today's session. I think trading at the high point of the day on fairly high volumes too. Ashwini, you want to come in on BHEL? I don't know if you've spoken about it already, but trading at the high point of the day, 25% gains already out of the way. Would you actually book profits here? I don't think Ashwini can hear me. Mitesh, you want to come in then on BHEL?
See, I think we have been recommending BHEL from a short to medium term point of view, and I've looked at targets of first 241, and I think beyond that I would look at targets of around 263. So I think if somebody has been holding it out beyond 241 to 42, I think good time to continue holding this. The only advice which I'll have is to revise the stop loss below 243, and I think 262 to about 265 is where the stock will head towards.
Okay, that's a quick view coming in on BHEL. Just want to mark some more names, especially the private banks which are doing well in the session. Kotak Bank, IndusInd Bank, both up in excess of 2%. There's also Bank of Baroda actually, which is doing well in trade. Vishal, what's the view that you're taking on some of these large cap banks?
Yes, if you see the banking sector is only the outperformance in last 5 to 6 trading sessions. Futures open interest data also indicates that we have seen a long build up in bank Nifty. Not only that, Bank Nifty is almost up by 3 to 4% in last 3 to 4 trading sessions vis-a-vis Nifty, which is just up by 1.5%. So it's clearly, it's very clear, Bank Nifty is dragging index up, Nifty index up, and IT is lagging and it is dragging down. So right now, yes, banks have seen a good amount of outperformance. Right now, the outperformance has came from a lot of large cap banks and private banks like ICICI, Axis Bank and Yes Bank. My sense is now that we will see a good momentum coming in PSU banks. So I would recommend one stock from each of this. My top pick in the large cap bank would be ICICI Bank. I'm expecting a good amount of momentum in the next series. And in PSU banks, mid cap banks, I would recommend going long on Union Bank. Today only we have seen a good amount of breakout happening on technically. Beside this, open interest data also indicates a marginal long build up. My sense is that if this stock is able to breach 230 levels, we will see a good amount of momentum coming back and volumes coming in this particular counter. So my pick from a PSU bank would be Union Bank with a target of 250 and stop loss of 218. And in large cap bank, I would recommend ICICI Bank.
Okay, Vishal, stay on with us. Lots more to talk about. Let's quickly do a detour, go across to our research desk where Ashwini and Yatin have, as always, been working their phones to get a sense of what dealers are recommending in the 15 minutes of trade left. Ashwini, come to you. What is it that you're hearing from your sources?
See, Tanveer, Bank Nifty is something that dealers are liking at this point of time. They're recommending accumulating the Bank Nifty on every decline. They believe that the Bank Nifty will outperform the Nifty. And you know, a lot of, the PSU banks haven't actually moved significantly in the rally, because even if you're looking at counters like, SBI, hasn't moved significantly. So overall, they like both the PSU banks and private banks. And that's why they're saying that the Bank Nifty seems to be the best bet at this point of time. And technically also looks extremely strong. So the first one is Bank Nifty. Cipla is something that dealers are liking at this point of time. The buzz in the market is that the company may launch a big drug very, very soon. So that is the buzz that's going on in Cipla. And Reliance Capital is something in which dealers are indicating that there is buying coming in at the lower levels and recommend accumulating this counter with room to average.
Thanks, Ashwin, for that. Yatin, come to you. What is it that you're hearing?
Tanveer, CESC is something that we pointed out in the morning as to, the launch of QIP is quite near and possibly would be at a discount to the market price. And if you look at the stock performance, that has been at the day's low, and clearly dealers are still of the view that, from here on also the stock could slide another 5 to 7 rupees, and hence they are recommending STBT here. Apart from it, Lupin, that pharma major would be reporting their quarterly earnings tomorrow, and the market chatter is that the results will be quite strong versus expectations, and from here and these levels, there could be a significant upside that could be there post the results. So this is one stock wherein dealers are recommending a buy on declines. And finally, Kolte Patil from the cash market segment is something that dealers are talking about. HNIs have been buyers in trade today, and 15 to 20% kind of upside is what they are looking at as far as this mid-cap real estate company is concerned.
Yep. Thanks for that, Yatin. I think the management was on ET Now as well today and spoke some fairly good things too. Thanks a lot for that, Yatin, as well as Darshan. Those are a few stocks to watch out for sure. By the way, what's correcting? Tanveer is enumerated Jindal Steel and DLF, so those are down. Crompton Greaves is down. HUL is now down over 5% at 720. So it's not been a very pretty afternoon for Hindustan Unilever despite numbers being in line. What's done well? A stock called ESAB is up 20%. There is Ingersoll Rand, which is up. HCL Info is up close to 5%, so not bad going. And Capital First is up close to 5% as well in the session. So good going for that one. But the disappointing move, of course, has been in Just Dial. I don't know whether it's got to do with the Deutsche Bank note that came out and downgraded the earnings estimates, because the results came out 2 or 3 days back, and you heard the management on ET Now. Prakash, what's with Just Dial? I mean, it's a sudden gash, 10 or 11% down today, fairly high volumes, lots of trading activity too. But the numbers have come out 3 or 4 days ago. Is it a response, a delayed response to earnings, or is it something else, Prakash, that is working on Just Dial today?
Very clearly, if you see the kind of numbers that came through, Neeraj, if you sift through that on and compare it with what the company had projected at the time of the IPO, very clearly, while they've been able to manage billings and top line growth, there's absolutely no proximity to the kind of margins that you would expect for a company which is growing so rapidly to kind of notch. And I think the street is certainly kind of got wary of the kind of expensive valuation that you're paying, and a company that's looking at coming back to the market to harvest some more money out through a QIP or whatever offering they have in mind. At this juncture, it's only going to dilute earnings further. So my sense is that the street probably has got certainly wary of these businesses which haven't delivered on the same lines as the kind of expansion that they talked about. And while e-commerce has taken off very well, you have all of them in the unlisted space, and this is the only company that people had to come as a proxy to that industry, to that sector. But I think it's still too high a premium that we were paying for it, and that's a realization that probably started coming in. So my sense is a lot of loose money, a lot of weak hands would kind of move out of that counter, continue moving out of that counter till it really comes down another 18-20%.
Right, Prakash, as we speak, HUL has dipped a bit further, and I know while you address this story, do you think this is just a reaction given that valuations were also a bit stretched for the stock, not meriting the kind of successive growth it's showing? That's pretty much in the price?
You're talking about HUL?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so very clearly, while they've already kind of fired all the ammo that they had in the brand portfolio, people are kind of slightly worried with the tepid volume growth that you would kind of expect the entire full-blown portfolio, especially in the last quarter. We had expected a lot of the last couple of quarters. In fact, we were expecting Tresemme and the other newer brands that they launched to kind of do well. And remember one thing, it's a lot of other FMCG players, domestic players particularly, which are getting very strong in some of the segments that HUL always enjoyed a great market share in. So today, I mean, look at ITC setting the cat among the pigeon by saying getting into coffee. Now that's a new area for them, but it's definitely going to start making things difficult for the likes of Nestle, the likes of maybe Tata Coffee and all. So FMCG is a very market share sensitive business, and volume growth or degrowth out there does kind of start getting stocks to get re-rated very easily, and I think that's what's happened to in response to the tepid growth that we've seen. But I think people will come back, because finally you would want to buy an HUL in the portfolio willy-nilly because of the kind of weightages that it has, and at that point in time maybe there could be some stability after consolidation of the price.
Do you have Nescafe, Prakash, or do you have something else?
Sorry?
I was asking whether you have Nescafe or you have something else, considering you're talking coffee.
No, we've started, we got hooked on to Starbucks now that it's close to our office as well. But
you are the elite class, Prakash.
That's another story that of course some other day we'll talk about.
Yeah,
He thought you were talking about a stock for a second.
I know. Anyways, so okay, just moving on from there too, and just talking about some other very active stocks. Look at what's happened to some of the defense-related stocks. BEL, BML, Nelco, that 80,000 crore push. I know it's just spurred the space today, and all of these stocks. Actually, BEL has come off quite rapidly from the highs of the day, but BML sustaining, Nelco sustaining. I saw a couple of other names too doing reasonably okay for themselves. So that's one basket. Ashwini, you track some of these stocks very closely as well. Anything out here that looks interesting? I know you like BEL per se, but leaving that out, any of the other smaller names, an Astra Micro, a Bharat Forge, a BEML, a Nelco, anything out here?
Well, it's all about hope right now, and people can get quite tired waiting for orders, etc., or some news flow, as we've seen. BEL, BEML, etc. But obviously, just from a purely charting angle, BEML looks good for chances are for 750. BEL looks good for 2600, 2650. I don't think it's really worthwhile trying to go too far down the ladder. That should happen once actual orders, actual big news flow starts coming out. But in a good market and if everything goes as projected by the market, Nelco probably 125, 130 is easily possible. But don't try to extrapolate things that anybody who makes anything will now start getting defense orders. I think basically PSUs will be the ones which will get anything worthwhile.
Just before we take in those 325 ideas or 320 ideas, look at what's happened to some of the jewelry names. PC Jewelers is up 14%, and I think this run started last week onwards. Ever since that unlisted Kalyan Jewelers got that big FDI or rather stake investment from I think Warburg Pincus or one of the other private equity giants, and that led to some of these companies starting a move. PC Jewelers and TVZ, I think PC in particular, over the last 5 days or 7 days has had a massive move that's come in, and I could think of only one reason why. It's an unlisted player which has got a valuation which is much higher than what some of the listed stocks are enjoying right now. Nevertheless, let's first take in those 320 ideas. Mitesh, come to you first and take in your closing strategy, your one top trading idea, one top closing strategy rather.
If I recommended this stock earlier about Union Bank should be a top buy for the time being. I think it can be bought with a stop below 220 and 242 to about 245 is the short-term target which I would look for.
Ashwini, what would be your top closing strategy?
Well, people may think it's a little late. I think you can still go short on Unilever with a stop around 730 and maybe look for targets of 680, 685 because today's action has basically taken out whatever has happened in the last couple of months. So chances are that this will see follow through.
Vishal, I think you recommended a Union Bank, Vishal, but if I were to ask you for one closing strategy, either a BTST, STBT or maybe a 2-day positional trade, which one would be your top idea?
Yeah, I would be comfortable and I recommend going BTST for Yes Bank. If you see the futures open interest have seen a huge spurt with good volumes. Technically stock has been in a strong uptrend, so one can play for BTST in Yes Bank.
Okay, and just before we thank you, Vishal, how about you giving us a word on Just Dial? I don't think we've asked you that. That's added massive OI today. What do you do here? If you were short, would you continue short?
Yes, I would continue the short because the way we have seen a OI build up, it has been quite huge, and I would I will keep trading my stop losses.
Great. Vishal, good having you. Thanks much for joining in today and giving us that perspective. Jindal Steel is incidentally now down 8%. So that is one stock that's gone down massively on the index. DLF, of course, 7.5% at 110. So that continues to correct as well. Look at Den Networks, that's corrected a bit, 5.5%. But I think the top